Hey, good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this meeting of the Kennebunkport Select Board. Today is January 8th, 2026, calling the meeting to order at 6:01. Would you please rise with me for our Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The next order of business is to approve the December 22nd, 2025 Select Board meeting.
So moved. Second.
The first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? So moved. Next item is our public forum. This is an opportunity for anyone who wants to address the board with any issue that is not on the agenda. Do we have anyone in the audience? Is that a yes? No. Seeing no hands. Anybody online?
No hands raised.
Excellent. We have a meeting tonight, so we can move ahead. The next order of business is the public hearing regarding the consent agreement with the Tides. We will now be opening that public hearing regarding the proposed administrative agreement between the town and the Tides Beach Club, LLC. The consent agreement has been written to fully resolve the legal dispute resulting from the town's issuance of a notice of violation on May 15th, 2025, concerning two parcels owned by the Tides, located on Kings Highway in Kennebunkport, Maine, identified as tax map 35, block 12, lot 2, and map 35, block 10, lot 31. Copies of the proposed administrative consent agreement, including the exhibits and reciprocal licenses to be entered into by the town and the Tides as part of the agreement, have been available for inspection by the public at the office of the town clerk and on the town's website. Before we begin the public comments, I think it would be good to just reflect on what brought us here. The town has long been focused on finding a resolution to the Tides' violation of the status of a non-conforming business. To this end, we have engaged with Tides management for several years. Unfortunately, we had not been able to find resolution. After issuing a formal notice of violation this past November, the town entered discussions with EOS Investors, LLC, who are the owners of the Tides, and successfully established a one-time interim agreement as to how the Tides would conduct business during the 2025 summer season. In the fall, we again initiated discussions with EOS to create a final permanent agreement. Both parties agreed that it would be in their mutual best interest to avoid litigation through the establishment of a consent agreement. Both parties negotiated in good faith, and after several face-to-face meetings, established the administrative consent agreement that we are addressing this evening. The town thanks EOS Investors and the Tides for their engagement in this process and for reaching an agreement that establishes clear boundaries, avoids litigation, and sets expectations going forward for the current and any future owners of these properties. The town believes that this administrative consent agreement addresses the town's major concerns by protecting our critical natural resources and setting boundaries and guardrails that limit commercial creep of a nonconforming business, all while striking the appropriate compromise to deter litigation. We are grateful to the town residents for allowing us the time to pursue this process to get to this proposed resolution. We'll now be opening the floor for public comment. I would ask you, please, to keep your comments to 3 minutes. And if you want to make a second comment, please wait until everyone has had a chance to be heard. So we will entertain any, do I need to officially open or is it open? Then this is now officially opening the public hearing. Anyone wish to speak? Please state your name and address.
Fred Stafford, 892 Kings Highway. First of all, I'd just like to thank the board for pursuing this. I know it's been a long time coming. And I would also like to reinforce the fact that people who were opposed to what had been going on with the beach and itself in particular, nobody was trying to put the tides out of business, as some people tried to make people think. But, you know, over the years, and I've lived here, I've owned property here since '98. I lived here full-time for the last 5 years. And I had witnessed things on the beach, witnessed the Tides employees going out in the morning and putting chairs up before anybody had asked for a chair so they could essentially secure their area. I've seen them rake all the seaweed out of that area off to the sides. And so all of this gave a visual barrier to that being a private area. They've promoted it on their websites as a private area, not just for the Tides, but also for Hidden Pond and trucking people in from Hidden Pond. You know, and they had I think at one time I counted close to 160 chairs on the beach that they had stacked. There's what, 21 rooms in the Tides Inn, and then there are 3 or 4 units next to it. So there's no way that many people could use those chairs. But anyway, all that aside, nobody wants to see them go out of business. It's a nice resource that I know a lot of people at the beach enjoy, a lot of people that live there and rent there and all that. But we all have to live by the rules, and there are rules. And the people that purchased the Tides originally and own the Tides now, they're not stupid people. So I can't believe that they would buy this property and not be aware of the restrictions that they had in terms of the beach itself, seating in relationship to parking, and all those other things that, you know, makes business viable, right? So again, thank you all for your persistence. It's been a long time coming, and I just, you know, hope everybody abides by the agreement and we go on from here. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other thought?
Wayne Fessenden, Goose Rocks. Thank you for this. Whoever came up with this, we used to have to do this when everything slid off. So if Ralph Austin is watching at home, and he had it down to a science on how everything would fall in your lap because you couldn't hold anything here. John, you mentioned that it follows the property.
Correct.
So obviously a new owner that comes along. So it seems, at least to me, that this is more than just a change or a fine. It affects the beach ordinance, the beach use ordinance. And so I'm wondering why it doesn't hit a level where the town votes for the change as opposed to an executive.
Yeah, I go defer.
So the administrative consent agreement doesn't change the beach use ordinance or any zoning, but it is a reconciliation of the violations that we noted.
It's fairly strong, and that's why I bring it up.
Yeah, I mean, our attorneys and their attorneys were
That's-
intimately involved throughout the entire
Right.
process.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I was interested if she was here or if we'd hear that answer. So I'm not being argumentative, I'm just wondering at what level we get to where it has to be voted by the town.
It does not have to be voted by the town.
Other comments?
There is someone online with their hands up.
Okey-doke.
Kathleen, you can speak when you unmute yourself.
Yes, this is Kathleen Vorse. I represent the third generation of owners at what is now 10 Bellevue Ave, previously 30 Crescent Ave. And I have a question about the layout of parking according to what I believe is part of Exhibit B to your agreement. And that shows Crescent Ave, and it looks to me like parking space number 19 is in the layout of Crescent Ave. So my first question is, what is the status of Crescent Ave? Is it considered by the town to be a throughway? It doesn't look ever to be maintained. And as a near abutter to that, I mean, I certainly would like to be able to use it. So I'm curious.
Yeah, that portion of Crescent Avenue was a paper street that was never developed. And those rights were extinguished some time ago. And the land reverts to either a budding property owner.
Half, so it's split in two, and half goes to each.
Okay.
And that's per state.
It's
That's
per
per
state.
state law.
So whose property is the parking space 19 on?
That's on Tide's property. So that
Okay.
line, basically, when you look at that map, if you divide that Crescent Street right away parallel to the boundary lines, you'll see that 19 falls fully within what is now Tide's property.
So you take the boundary as the midline of what was Crescent Ave?
Correct.
Okay, well, that answers my question. And I also want to commend the board for this joint resolution of the problems, because I as well have been observing the creep. And I think the Tides is a wonderful asset to the beach. But it was becoming a little overbearing, and I am thrilled to see you do this. And I think when all the rest of us, as far as the improvement of our properties, are subject to these resource protections and limitations, commercial enterprises like the Tides need to be held to the same accord. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, my name's Pam Sikansky, and I'm a resident of Goose Rocks and chairman of the Beach Advisory Committee at this point. And I know this has been a long, arduous process, and I just want to say thank you so much. I think we've reached what should be a really great working relationship and situation going forward, and just thank you to all the parties.
Thank you, Pam. Yes.
Hi, I'm Barry Engel. I'm also on the Beach Advisory Committee, and I just had really two questions. The shuttle back and forth from Hidden Pond, what is going to happen? Is there any changes to that?
This was not addressed in this consent agreement. That is still an open issue and a concern that we'll be always taking a look at and working in the future.
Okay, thank you. The second question is, given that there were violations of the codes, et cetera, were there fines that have been imposed?
This agreement and the compromises that were reached between the two parties resolve all of the issues that were in the NOV. It did not come down to fines, to my knowledge.
Okay. Thank you, and well done. It's really nice to have this behind us.
Thank you. I agree.
Two more hands raised on Zoom.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Jim Sullivan, 10 Crescent Ave at Goose Rocks. I had two questions. First of all, is there a representative from Kennebunkport Resort Collection there tonight?
We have an individual here from the collection, yes?
I have a question for them. Based on the revised number of allowable seats within the building and on the lawn and the porch, what's the estimate of loss of revenue versus what they were doing prior to any of this coming up, say 2 years ago? Is there an estimate of how much revenue they will lose percentage-wise?
I understand that question. I would suggest that you might want to visit the tides to be able to get your answer. But this is a public hearing to address the consent agreement, so those are the only questions we are really entertaining at this point in time.
Okay, my second question is then for this, regarding this. Was there any consideration when determining the amount of seats to be used for the restaurant and the porch, given to I know when I read the document, it seemed like a lot of it was based on number of parking spaces. How much consideration was given to the fact that a number of people in the room who might attend or go to the tides walk there and don't drive a car there?
Actually, the number of seats were set based on what have been the historical use of the property. So that is what set the number of seats. The parking was grandfathered in, again, based on what we believe was true and what was a compromise agreement between EOS and the town when we established this consent agreement.
Okay, and my only comment for everybody, and I think most people know this, my personal feeling is Kennebunkport Resort Collection has been a very good corporate citizen to Kennebunkport, given many donations. I'm actually on the board at GRBA. They just gave a $25,000 donation to our capital campaign. And I think whatever we do going forward, we should consider this and consider all the other good work they've done and the upgrades they've done into Kennebunkport, which, if people are realistic, will know that's one of the reasons we've had such high appreciation on our home properties. It's just not the quaintness of the beach. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. One more online?
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, my name is Francisca Sabadier. I'm at 958 Kings Highway, otherwise known as Stella. And, I had a question about Hidden Pond, but that's been addressed. I just wanted to point out a typo that maybe somebody has. On the first page of the compromise agreement, it says it's dated 2025, and at the end, obviously, it would be signed in 2026.
The one you're gonna sign.
Yeah, thank you, and we did catch that. And so the one we are going to sign has been updated and corrected.
Okay, I didn't see that. I was just curious, when you're talking about they could have only 12 guests outside for eating, does the term guests mean only hotel guests, or is that still open to the public as long as there are only 12?
No, that is open to the public. That's just constraining the number of alcohol/food seats allowed on the front lawn.
Okay. And finally, I just had one question. I was wondering, since a lot of the allegations concern that they had not sought or obtained proper approvals, is there any way to have an agreement that they won't make any more changes without seeking and obtaining proper approvals?
Well, that is certainly, we expect everyone to come and get proper approval. I don't know if we needed to put that in writing to them. That's always the thought, that folks will put in the appropriate permits.
I agree, but your allegations are that they did not on many occasions.
That's a true statement.
So, would that fall within the purview of the supervision of the Supreme Court, or is it Superior Court for the enforcement of the agreement?
So that's two separate things, right? So the enforcement of the
Yeah.
agreement will follow through to the judge that signs off. That's the purpose of this consent agreement. And then normal town processes with code enforcement will follow through on any future improvements, just as any other business in town or any other resident.
Right. Okay, I think that I think those were all my questions or comments.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you.
So I'd like to just go back to Wayne's question, because I
Yeah.
think we sort of left it a little, Wayne, I don't know if you are. So I think when we were working through this agreement, we used, to go to your comment about the beach use agreement, we didn't reopen that. Basically, we used the beach use agreement as a guiding principle to help us frame what was allowed and not allowed, and then just accurately document this for this agreement, and then for future owners, just to have very good clarity for a non-conforming business.
Yeah,
And then
this-
everything else is just notice of violations, that this is now an agreement of how we're resolving those notices. So that's what we had talked through. I don't know if that's helpful.
Chief Sullivan has raised his hand again.
All right, I think we're on round two. Let's go.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry for the follow-up question.
Okay.
One of the things I remember from last year's hearings were, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, a number of restaurants in town have the ability for takeout drinks. Is that no longer the case, or is this only or limited to certain restaurants?
So in the state of Maine, they have the ability to, after COVID or during COVID, they have the ability to go for a secondary license, which is takeout drinks. If you go through like the past licenses that have been in front of the board, I think there's a little bit of a misnomer because there's not many restaurants or food affiliation places that come in front of the board with that secondary license request. So as part of this agreement, this discussion with the Tides was specifically about compromise and where we were going to compromise and yield, and that was one of the areas where we weren't willing to for this non-conforming business.
So they cannot come back for that secondary license?
No.
So, okay. Okay, I'm a little confused on why some can and some can't, but I guess you have your reasons.
Because this is a non-conforming business.
That
So
is
that
the
reason.
they can come back, but they would be denied on the basis that this is a non-conforming business. And that would be an inappropriate expansion of use.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions before we close the hearing?
Anything else on?
We done with the online comments?
No more hands raised.
Then I will call this public hearing to a close and ask for a motion.
I would like to make the motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve the administration consent agreement between the town and the Tides Beach Club LLC.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? And all in favor?
I would just like to make one comment that, again, I'd like to emphasize John's comment about the public staying with us on this. I know that last summer was a little tough, but I do also would like to thank the Tides for coming to an interim agreement with us so that we can continue on with this discussion and reach this agreement. I think it was good progress by all, and I also would like to thank our town manager that has been living through this for quite some time, maybe longer than most of us here, except for Alan on the board. Sorry, Alan. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 6 on the agenda. This is, we'll be addressing this time of year. This is the fun part of the year where we look at what our capital expenses are projected to be, both for the coming fiscal year and also for 4 years after that. So we'll have a presentation on our capital projection.
So yes, as John stated, this is the beginning of our budget process. And one of the things that we do each year is we begin by looking at the capital needs of the town. We do our best to do a 5-year and beyond projection and really establish what the future needs are so that we can make informed decisions. Next slide. Or do you want me to just press a button? So certainly, as I stated, a capital improvement plan is a multi-year financial plan, and we hope to set our priorities and coordinate efforts and look at our financing options. The one thing is a capital improvement plan is a plan, and it does not authorize funding. It is not a budget, but the capital improvement plan does eventually lead to the budget process. So certainly a part of the process every year is to begin with the department directors, and we have conversations and meetings about what the needs are coming up, and each and every year they do the best of their ability to look long-term so that we can avoid short-term emergencies. One thing to understand is that these are our best estimates. These are not exact numbers in here, and the closer we get to actually doing the project, the more firm the number becomes. And that all funding does not necessarily come from the operating budget. So there are a number of funding options here, including the operating budget. We have reserve funds that we have set aside. We have trust funds that the town has access to. We use grants whenever possible. We do bonding for long-term projects that will benefit residents for 10 to 20 years. And of course, we look for private sources of funding as well. I'm going to turn it over to Nicole Evangelista, our finance director, to review the charts.
Yep, so this first chart shows the fiscal year 27 through 31 capital spending. It's primarily driven by special projects and wastewater, with fire and public works also representing important investments. The administration, Parks and Rec, Police, and Peer Department make up smaller shares, reflecting more routine capital needs. This slide summarizes the fiscal year 27 through 31 capital improvements by type, showing that the infrastructure accounts for over half of the costs. This next slide is the fiscal year 27 to 31 capital projects by funding. It's primarily through the operating budget. And then we also do bond financing with grants providing a significant supplemental source. Reserves make up a smaller portion of the funding. And this next slide is the fiscal 27 capital costs, which, as you can see, is dominated by the special projects, followed by administration and public works. Other departments like fire, wastewater, police, parks and rec, peers, and public health account for smaller portions of the total. Fiscal year 27 capital improvements are primarily focused on infrastructure, which represents the majority of the spending. Buildings and facilities and equipment account for the largest shares, while administration costs make up smaller portions of the capital investment. And this is our funding source slide. This primarily is the fiscal year 27 is primarily funded through the operating budget, with additional support from grants and reserves.
So if we look at the category of building projects, we have a number of items here in FY27 that we're going to focus on, but we also have meeting room and the fire station renovations in future years. So as we know, the town hall vote did not pass in November. And we do have a number of maintenance issues at the town hall, including our HVAC system. We also have a leaking roof that we've been repairing. And we also have a need to find some additional space. So what I am seeking feedback from the board on is regards to renovations at town hall. What can we do with the space that we have there? We certainly can't take care of the needs long-term, but in the short term, can we address the most challenging issues that we have? We did have a meeting with Sebago Technics and Grant Hayes Architects to look at what some possible options available to us are, including building out into the old fire barn and taking care of these maintenance and infrastructure issues in the building. And the estimate that they have given us is that at a minimum, we're looking at $1 million. Police and Public Health Building, they need to replace the flooring, which is original to the building. You can see the condition this is in. I'm going to have Chief Simeone come up and talk about the law enforcement accreditation program.
How's everyone doing? So the Maine Law Enforcement Accreditation Program is basically a professional standard that we're striving to meet that was set at a state level. There are several agencies already that have achieved that. For us to be able to do that, we do need to make some modifications to the building. We do have to have some software changes. And there's some other items that we need to address to be able to make that accreditation. We did have a representative that's responsible for conducting these evaluations of the other police departments that have applied for it. They came down and met with us back in November, and so we have a pretty good idea of the changes that we need to make and some of the items that we're bringing forward in this capital budget.
So Chief, can you talk about what's the benefit to citizens and the board?
Sure. So this, really, this is, again, it's a professional standard that we would meet. If we can meet this standard, kind of would give, the public a level of confidence that we've met these professional standards. And also, if we were to ever get involved in a lawsuit, we would have this to show that, we have met that level of professional standard. So it goes a long way to speak for basically the operations of the department, and that we're always striving to be on the cutting edge of those standards. So.
And part of the accreditation program is they review all our policies and practices. They review past incidents of any kind of use of force and how we've resolved various issues. So they do, on a regular basis, come in and check our work.
Yes, and record keeping and a number of other things that go along with it. So. Right now, currently, we're trying to address the access control in the station. Current access is done by a punch keypad. We actually only have that at just a couple locations in the building. One is in the lobby when you first come into the lobby before you get to the secure side of the building. The other is in the Sally Port in the garage. We're looking to go to a key card system. Key card system also basically is a logger system. So, it would log all the entries and exits at these doors. You would have to have a key card, so we would actually know who entered those doors and exited those doors. The doors on the right that you see are the doors to the evidence room. So one of the important reasons that we need this is this would document entries into the into the evidence room and exits from the exit room. So if at any one point in time an issue came up, we can go back and reconcile, who may have been in the room. These are the existing cameras. That's one shot of the camera on the left. The one on the right is one that has failed. I have looked extensively to try to find a replacement for that. They're no longer using the ones with these coax cables, and the connections are not the same anymore. So I haven't been able to find a replacement for that, but we've had several others fail. The system is kind of rudimentary, and it's original to the building, so it's been there since 1996. We had a couple incidents in the parking lot that we really could have used the footage on. These cameras did not pick that up because they were supposed to be motion sensitive, and they didn't sense the motion, so they didn't come on. So that's why we're looking to replace the cameras.
And we have some good news.
Yes, we do. So.
Apparently, it's good news he doesn't want to share yet.
Right. So back in July, there was a grant that came out, state grant, that offered money for, basically rehabilitating an evidence room, so that, after the new yellow flag law came out, a lot of agencies started having to seize a lot of firearms in conjunction with these yellow flag violations. We quickly ran out of room. Our evidence room is very tiny. We didn't have enough room to put all these firearms. This past spring, I actually went out and purchased the largest safe that I could buy. I believe the capacity was 84 firearms. We filled that within a few months. So aside from the fact that we have to store all these firearms, we're also responsible for the condition of these firearms, because at some point, if they are either returned back to the owner or other arrangements have been made to dispose of them in another way, they still need to be in the same condition that we took them in. The issue that we have is our evidence room lives in a basement, and as you know, during the summer months, concrete sweats. It's very humid down there. So it's been kind of a laborious process. We've been going down and periodically taking all these firearms and wiping them down with oil so that they're not rusting. And so, we're looking at some other upgrades to do that. So we applied for this grant back in July. The issue was it was a 3-week period. So we had to get quotes together and submitted within 3 weeks. And as you know, contract is very busy these days, so we weren't able to put that together. The grant was offered back out in November on, I believe it was Monday of Thanksgiving week. So as you know, Thanksgiving week is already lost. And then we had the first couple weeks of prelude. So we just took a stab at it again. My detective, Haley McGuire, actually worked on this and put it together for me real quick. We sent it in, got the reply back that, hey, we can push this forward, but again, we need quotes. So we explained that, again, this is difficult. So I said, we'll have to respectfully decline. And we just got an email on Tuesday saying that we were awarded the grant conditionally if we could get the quotes in. So I called a few favors from a local contractor that came in and took a look at this the last couple of days with me. And he feels like he's going to be able to get a quote to me in time to submit by next Friday. So we're in hopes that we're going to get that, and the grant was awarded in the amount of $131,000 and some change.
No, this is to take care of these evidence room and security renovations and a few other things. But we're assuming that we will be given the final grant, and so this funding wouldn't have to come through the budget.
Well done.
Thank you.
Can I just I have a question.
It's up to you. It's your meeting.
Alan's got a question.
Yeah, all right, let's see how this goes. We can't take too many questions, but Alan, go ahead.
So in other words.
He's the only one. Be
He's the
fast,
only
be
one.
quick. No.
Alan Evelyn, Kennebunkport resident. I just wanted to ask the chief, are you including some fixed dehumidification for that area, whether it's the whole basement or the evidence room? Because that sounds like that would take care of a lot of the problems.
Yes, we actually did consider that, and one of the subcontractors for the general contractor came in this morning to meet with me on that, and that is what he is currently working on right now, is a design that will take care of the entire basement.
Yeah, and although he focused a lot on the guns and the rusting, these are just residential core hollow doors. So we'll be putting steel doors in, we'll be putting in safety measures that will secure them more.
Yep.
So last year, we talked about our cold storage facility. The current one is on the left. It is in very poor shape. It is leaking. We store a lot of items in there. Our insurance company, each year, we're wondering if they'll continue to insure us on it and the equipment in there. So last year, we talked about it, and we put 100,000 in reserve to put what we have on the right side of the screen up. So this year, we are looking to do the cold storage facility.
Is that the same size?
Yes, it would be similar in size, yeah. It looks smaller in this picture, but that's just one somebody else has.
Will it help keep rodents out, or is it the same, or is it just because it'll be newer that it'll help, or is it the same?
I don't know that it'll help keep rodents out unless we put traps in there, yeah. I mean, the concrete won't have holes in it, so that'll help.
Yeah, well, I know we had problems with,
In the middle,
you know,
it would have
Yeah.
those,
we had problems with some of our vehicles, right?
Right.
Need some wires.
Those are the ones mostly outside, though. So looking forward beyond this coming fiscal year 27, fiscal year 28, I have the town meeting room, the room that we're in now. If we do the renovations to the village fire station that we had talked about previously, we will need to address this meeting room since it won't be attached to the town hall. That will need to be addressed before we do the renovations. And then we have out in FY '29, the renovations. The current quote we have on these renovations as a singular project are 4.8 million from Sebago Technics. So moving on to the infrastructure projects, we're looking at especially parks and recreation. As you know, we did a parks master plan, and we're looking to make improvements to the firefighters park. We've been seeking grants for that. We did apply for a grant this year. Unfortunately, we were not successful, but we'll be seeking that again in FY '27, looking for more opportunities to find grant funds for that. FY '28, we're also looking at a playground. I, in fact, spoke to a resident this week about a playground at Firefighters Park and whether there's an opportunity to raise some funds there. It's probably the most asked parks question I get is what can we do at Firefighters Park? So we're hoping to find other solutions, but we have that out in FY '28. As we move forward to infrastructure projects, we're looking at roads, and Eric is going to come and talk a little bit about our road maintenance program.
Yeah, so we've, one of the things that we talk about often is the knee of the curve, if you will. When a road is in good condition and in a position where we can just overlay the road, we typically can get approximately 5 to 7 years of extended life at a very reduced cost. If we get into the reconstruction costs, it's upwards of 10 times the cost of surfacing the road if we're replacing gravels and then putting new pavement down and such. And as interim, you may have seen some of the things we do, which is somewhat of an interim measure, which is reclaiming and then repaving the road again. But we try not to go too far. We really want to get them when the roads are in relatively good shape. So often it can be a frustration for people saying, my road is in terrible shape, why are you fixing this one? Because I can fix this road at a tenth of the cost and get that much more mileage. We're trying to strike that balance, so the Oak Log and West neighborhood, the Waltz district, so we're trying to pick away at some of these other roads that are not, are not currently in good shape, but also we want to make sure we're taking care of the river roads, the Arundel roads, the Oak Ridge roads, and try to make sure that we're keeping those in good condition.
I think David had a question.
I do have a question for you, Eric. A couple of residents emailed about the salt that is used on roads, which isn't in the capital, but can you kind of address the issue? Their concern is that they feel that we're maybe using too much salt in some places, or is it a calibration issue on the machine, on the trucks? If you could just kind of give the residents a little bit on the salt.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a fair amount of science as to how we approach every storm. Every storm is a little bit different as to how we want to attack those. But typically, our application rates are 250 pounds per lane mile. And that is, we calibrate our equipment. If there's I wouldn't tell you these are mechanical and electrical pieces of equipment, sometimes we do have to go back, recalibrate them. But the target is always about 250 pounds per lane mile, within the 10 pounds, plus or minus. So, that is actually an accepted practice. I would say that as you get to high-speed roads, turnpike authorities, they're going to go much higher than that. But for our local ways, we're going for 250 pounds. It's a very accepted practice, and it works relatively well. Our job is not to melt ice, but it's actually anti-ice. So we don't want to de-ice, we want to anti-ice the roads. That means getting salt down on that road before it binds to the pavement. We've all driven over hard packed. It's miserable, it's icy, and when we go after the hard pack, it probably requires us to probably apply about 5 times the amount of salt after the fact. So some of these roads that you see that have gotten hard pack, we don't want to get there. So we are out there applying salt beforehand so we can make sure that that bind does not happen to the road, and then we come in and scrape, and scrape, and scrape, and scrape. We want to do a lot of scraping, so we're just trying to make sure that the ice and snow is not bonding to the road. So that's the practice.
So what did you say about how many pounds per mile?
250 pounds.
That's not really a lot of salt.
It's not, and if you were to follow a truck, you wouldn't see a whole lot coming off the back.
So if people say, I remember when we used to put sand on the roads, and why don't we use sand?
Well, sand, it's actually, most practices, and this has been going on for at least 10, 20 years probably now, that that we've gone to salt priority roads is what we call them, and part of the reason is, sand is not very environmentally friendly for one thing, and also fills up your ditches. On average, we used to establish it would be about 1 inch per year, so if you have a ditch, it would be about 12 inches. Every 12 years, I've got to redig that whole ditch back out. I've got to dispose of that material because it's often trash and other things that are in that ditch. And environmentally, if I have catch basins and those types of things that I also have to clean out, it's very costly to take care of the sand. So we're not necessarily applying less salt than we did back then. And that's part of the interesting, is just the material that is doing the work for us are the chlorides. It's the magnesium chlorides, it's the sodium chlorides. That's the workhorse. So, but if we have ice on the road, though, I would tell you, sometimes we want a little bit of friction. We do have sand. We will put it out there. If for some reason we have an icy condition and we feel that the rain that is coming down and the cold temperature of the pavement, we may come in and say, okay, we need a little bit of friction to activate that salt. Once again, every storm's a little bit different. We're going to approach it, but typically we're able to do it with just salt only.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So here are the road projects that Eric is projecting for FY27. We try to maintain a similar amount of funding each year. And so these are also the ones that he has projected for FY28 through FY31, and you can see it covers a wide variety of areas in town. Going on to infrastructure projects, we have.
Could we do Jeffrey's Way on July 4th weekend?
Moving along.
The majority of our special projects in terms of funding have to deal with resiliency projects and also our street lights. So we purchased our street lights a few years ago from Central Maine Power, and we have been working at replacing those at the tune of $50,000. We can do about 10 lights a year. Some are more costly, some are less, but we are working at that constantly. We've talked before about the Ocean Avenue Resiliency Project for Wanby area. This is about a $3 million project. We do have a grant into FEMA that we submitted a year ago, last January, for hazard mitigation funds. We're still awaiting word from FEMA. There would be a 25% cost share, which we did budget this current budget year we're in, so we won't need funding for next year. But it could be a potential project to come before the board.
I thought we put that on hold.
Yeah, I thought so too.
We had the grant application in, and so we've done nothing more besides the grant, wait for the grant application. The Dyke Road Resiliency is looking out in future years, what can possibly be done with the flooding on Dyke Road. And then, of course, our resiliency in Dock Square. We currently have a Kennebunk River flooding study going on with the town of Kennebunk and Southern Maine Planning that we receive grant funds to do. Eventually, we would like to come up with ideas and plans to submit to the public on what possibly can be done about the flooding there. So you can see this is in future years out. I have no idea what the cost might potentially be. So we have a plug number in there for now.
So how do we look at the Wambi Beach? So we would put 25% as a hold in the budget?
We
Or
did,
would
we already did this year, so it was part of FY '26 budget.
Okay, so it's already in there for 26.
Yep, because we thought we would have heard by now, but we have not.
But we're really not looking to spend 3 million in 27, is my point, right?
Well, if we hear about the grant, then we would come back to the board and tell you what the results of the grant application were. And then we would need to make a decision.
I think that's where I'm confused, because I thought we had,
I don't think we ever voted on that.
no, okay.
I thought we voted to apply,
We did.
and then we also, the postponement you mentioned was to sort of, wasn't that more for the head of the harbor?
No,
No.
head of the harbor here is, we already kicked that one out.
Right, but that's right, that was the.
That's on the shelf. I mean, the study's been done, but the project's on the shelf.
Right.
And and again, it might be where Alan and David just said that we had voted for to at least go and make sure what we get for funding.
I know there's been discussion about concerns about it, and I've heard from board members on both sides of that equation. But the board never took a vote to do nothing or do something. So we've just been in stasis waiting. If the grant application isn't successful, it's a moot subject because we wouldn't fund that level on our own. But once the grant application has been decided one way or the other, we would bring that back to the board.
So while we're here on these projects, I had a thought, and I'd like to at least have the board and maybe the budget committee think about it too, and Lori, you give us your feedback. We have our we have our lawyer costs that come through each year. We get involved in different things during the course of the year. But we have been on these types of infrastructure projects where we have used lawyers. Specifically, I'm thinking about the causeway. So would it not behoove us to put in money in these line items to cover some lawyer fees that we would need either for contracts or resolving issues with right-of-ways or residents or, anything that comes up from that we would need lawyers for? So I feel like we have these infrastructure costs for this, but then we pull from another bucket, and that other bucket is our legal fees, which, the rest of the town and everything else that we can never really predict. And this one I think this one should be a standalone that should encompass, because it's standalone projects, and we should encompass, we're gonna touch like 5 different residents on this one, so we should have some legal fees in there when we're budgeting. So it's just not the cost of the hardware, the consultants, and that. There's actually we have a component of a potential legal fee in there that the town would have to incur. So it's all in, and it doesn't come out of our legal budget, because I think we might get caught some years.
It's a different bucket, though. I mean, the legal fees, I would agree with you that if we're looking at having these infrastructure projects, perhaps we need to increase what we have for our bucket for legal fees. But I don't see trying to incorporate legal fee, something from bucket A into bucket B, because there might be a cost incurred in bucket B. We could say that about a lot of different things that
Well,
town
no,
does.
that's my point, is that we can say that about a lot of different things, and that's why we have a legal bucket, because we say
Right.
that it's everything that runs into town, and we have a bucket for legal fees.
Right.
But this, we know, eyes wide open, that if we have a project that abuts some kind of right-of-way or potential some neighbors, we're gonna run into, from historical data, we're gonna run into legal fees. And so I don't wanna be pulling it out of our annual legal fee if we're doing some of these bigger projects that we really can look and see. I mean, we can look and see and say, we're gonna run into some legal fees here, potentially, and we should then budget for them. So and our lawyers bill us by what they're doing for us, so we will be able to get the bill and know that this is for X, Y, Z, and it goes to this bucket. I don't wanna drain out our legal fee out of, by doing a project like this.
Well, I agree, we ought to increase the legal fees in knowing that we're gonna be doing these projects. I would agree with that.
I'd say it differently. I say that if we have, something on the bucket, so I don't wanna just increase the legal fees to increase the legal fees. I would say it that I would like to, what I'm proposing is to increase the legal fees that will be conjoined with a project. And if that project goes on 27, then it has a legal fee aspect of it, just as well as it has a engineering fee, it has a contingency fee in there, and it's all up, all in. So we're not, so for example, we're not looking at
How are you gonna estimate the amount? How are you gonna estimate the amount? For each of these different projects, you're gonna go through and guesstimate how much legal fee you might need and add that in as a number?
Yeah, I mean, we can look back at what we ran into Causeway and at least use that as a benchmark.
That was one case that's very different than any other case. I don't see it, but I don't know, that's just my opinion. Yeah. Okay, so thanks for that comment.
Well, the board.
Thank you.
I'd like my select board members to think about it. I'd like the budget board members that are here to think about it. And then-
Thank
Joe's gonna.
I think it is probably a best practice, in corporations at least, to have a legal budget,
Which we have.
Which we have.
which we have. I think the question is, how do you set?
How do you allocate those
Yeah,
numbers?
how much goes into the legal budget? And I would suggest you're probably best served for an entity this size with the legal budgets that you've had to use the past as a basis to determine what the legal budget is going forward, unless there's some extraordinary event that would indicate high risk.
Right.
And in that case, you'd probably want to consider, why are you doing it if it presents such a high risk of generating a significant legal exposure that you're gonna have to proactively increase the budget?
So I would say yes, and so maybe this is something we have to think about, because from hindsight, when we ran into Causeway, we ran into legal fees. So anytime we touch a right-of-way, a resident, something, we are going to run into
How many-
potentially some legal fees.
What kind of legal fees have we had on the Pier project, which is almost twice the size of the?
Well, so
Listen,
there-
let's,
Okay, we will move along. I said, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Just as a reminder, the Causeway did cause us legal fees, but we did get reimbursed by the homeowner for those legal fees and engineering fees. But I don't think it is a bad concept, because we do have legal fees on the infrastructure projects that Eric undertakes, but they just are much smaller projects, and so the fees can be much smaller. It might be a right-of-way or an easement or a temporary construction easement, small legal items like that. And when you're doing much larger ones, like you said, we're going to change things, and we can have that impact. And I don't think it's a bad idea to think about that in terms of the general cost of doing some of these larger projects.
Thank you, Lori.
It doesn't mean we're gonna put the number in, but it's good to think about it.
I said.
Now, so moving
I
right
said,
along.
let's all just think about it, that's all I asked.
Excellent.
I didn't say for
Yeah, I
order.
think it's.
Excellent, thank you. And we're moving along after infrastructure projects.
So this is wastewater infrastructure. As you can see, the first couple of years, what we're trying to do is use our operating capital in wastewater to really work on some of the smaller projects and our engineering. Because in FY '29, you'll see all those pump station upgrades. And so to do the work in the early years, that we will probably be coming back to the town in a few years to talk about another bond to upgrade more wastewater pumps. So one of the smaller projects we have is the Goose Rock Beach Station. We had some major flooding there a couple of years ago now. And we need to move the electrical up and make some other small changes. Looking at some of our smaller pump stations out there and some technical improvements we can make that might serve us better in the future. Our lab is antiquated. Somebody saw a picture of this and told me, this looks like a high school lab course when I was in high school. And I said, it does, doesn't it? The lab, we do purchase small pieces of equipment, but they are the basis for us making sure that our wastewater system is running appropriately, and we do need an upgrade. Some of the mechanicals in this clarifier valve pit need to be upgraded. You can see we're out in future as we go. This is how many pump stations we have throughout town. These pump stations are the large collection system. So we have the treatment plant, which is a large investment, but our collection system is another. So here are some of the outward years pump stations that we are looking at. These are our current estimates on these. So it would make sense to probably tackle these together as what staff is recommending, rather than go in for a bond and then come back for another bond. Let's prep for them. So now we are moving on to equipment. We have color-coded them. So fire is red and purple is admin. So here, right to the other side of us, we have our AV equipment and our lovely AV personnel. So we have a setup here both at Village Fire Station and at Police Department. Next fiscal year, this equipment will be 9 years old, and its useful life is between 5 and 7 years. So we really need to be replacing this. We just sent out requests for proposals, and Yanina and her team are reviewing those. So for the budget process, we'll be coming in with a recommendation.
And it has been problematic.
It
The
has
system
been,
is
well, and
problematic,
it is deteriorating, and we're running up on emergencies rather than planned maintenance. The codes vehicles, we go out into future years. We've had that a number of years now, and we will be looking to replace that. If we go to firefighter, this is our normal PPE allotment of replacement each year. The SCBA packs, remember, we've been putting money aside. Jay has had a plan for several years, so this FY27 will be year 8 of 8, and a lot of this money in reserve, but we have one more contribution to make this year. Future years, we're looking at the Cape Porpoise rib boat along with the engine and trailer. We go out to our equipment in Parks and Rec. In future years, we're looking at the replacement of our bus. We have in the pier, the hoist, we have 4 different hoist locations out there on the new pier, and they have a lot of weather-dependent use, and so we try to budget for 1 a year. Regarding the harbor master boat, our current harbor master boat has reached an age where reliability, safety, and limitations are more pronounced. We got to be careful that we don't have a smaller boat, but a similar size boat to what we have now. We are looking for something that will allow him to go not only into the inner harbor, but all the way over to Goose Rocks Beach and to the islands in case an emergency is there. And we're looking for something cost-effective, but that we can tow with. So this is our estimate. This is a Mako boat, a Mako 214 with a center console. Looking at police equipment, it's the old vehicles and replacing those. Looking at either Ford Explorers or Dodge Durangos and what the equipment will fit into and what makes the most financial sense each year. Replacing WatchGuard cameras for the cruisers, trying to replace a couple of those a year as those are now past their service life. We are also looking for additional lockers for the police officers to use, and we have also 2 female officers now, so making sure we have equipment for them. And then the electronic feedback signs, so as part of the discussion on removing the speed bumps on New Biddeford Road, there was a request to put additional 4 electronic feedback signs at the beach, and this is the estimate on those. As we continue to go out into future years, there's more police vehicles and our tasers that will need to be replaced. As we go to FY '27 with the public health vehicle, our current electric vehicle, the lease is up in March of '27. And so in fiscal year '27, I don't think it'll make sense to do a similar lease since all those rebates have gone away. Galen looked into it recently, and I think it was $17,000 now for a 3-year lease. So I think it would make more sense to probably purchase a vehicle. So we have that on our agenda. As we go into Public Works, we get into the big numbers on equipment. This International has a lot of rust issues. It is a large truck with plow. Last year, we put $100,000 in reserve because we knew this truck was coming, but that would require an additional $200,000 this year. In FY '28, we have a similar truck that will need to be replaced. And then our Ford F-350, we talked about the switch and go body last year, so that as we replace these, we try to make the vehicles as flexible for all the different uses we have as possible. This is a little video on the switch and go. We also have our loader that in future years we will need to replace, but we are looking to start reserving funds for that. When we get to wastewater, we've talked about some of these. These are flow meters for our activated sludge that we need to replace. We have some air monitoring systems that will be part of the wastewater budget. In terms of admin, we have each year the records preservation, and we would like to continue that. A new item is the market reval. And so we wanted to talk to the board a little bit tonight about the assessments and where we are. And we have Becky Nolette, our assessor here.
Oh, Becky Logan.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
We have Becky
I gotta
Logan.
lower this a little bit, Eric.
We got rid of Becky Nolette.
We did get rid of Becky
Do
Nolan.
you want the?
No, if you want to do
Sure.
it for me, Lori, that would be great. So next slide. So as Lori said, I'm
It
Becky
says
Logan.
Becky Logan.
So I apologize for my voice. I'm fighting a head cold, so I will do my best and try to be clear. I know I sound like somebody, a young teenage boy going through puberty. I apologize. So let's start. So what is a municipal valuation? What is a state valuation? The municipal valuation is the value that the assessor sets for the municipality, which is used during the commitment process to determine the mill rate and property taxes for the community. Values are as of April 1st of each year. The state valuation is calculated by the state and is an estimate of the town's overall value, which is used to help determine state revenue sharing, school funding, exemption reimbursement amounts. The state equalizes the town's value to 100%. Next slide. So how does the state calculate their value? When determining our current valuation, the state looks at the sales from 2 years ago to determine our ratio. They then take that determined ratio and equalize our overall value to 100%, which means the state is looking at sales from 2023 to 2024 to determine our 2026 valuation. The state equalizes values for all communities the same way for all municipalities in the state of Maine. So why don't the numbers match? They don't match because they are used for different purposes. The municipal valuation is used for property taxes, budgeting, and the state valuation is an estimate of the town's full value and is used for state funding purposes. Next slide. So where are we now? As you can see by the chart, our assessments increase slower than the state value. And you will notice, though, in 2022, when we did the statistical update, our valuation was higher and we maintained a good level for several years. You could see that our value was a little bit higher and then started to drop in 2024. However, if we don't make adjustments to our values, the gap will continue to grow, having the ratio decrease. Next slide. So why now? The state of Maine recommends that a municipality do a reevaluation every 10 years to maintain the state-regulated guidelines of keeping towns' ratios between 70 and 110% of value. And even though right now our ratio of 81%, because that's where we currently are, and the projected decline to 76% is still within the required guidelines, as the desirability to live in Kennebunkport remains, our ratio will continue to decrease. Next slide. So before I go into the options of what we can do about our values, do we have any questions? Questions? Sorry.
So
I tried to be quiet in the corner so I could say my piece.
I have a question. I'm new at this.
Okay.
So what is the benefit of being higher up in the accepted value ratio?
So having a higher ratio is a benefit to the residents because they will receive the full exemption amounts that the state offers to reduce the property tax burden. So for instance, the $25,000 homestead exemption that the state offers is adjusted by our ratio. So currently, we certified at 90% this past year. So the exemption amount, instead of being 25,000, was reduced to 22,500. So as that ratio continues to decrease, those exemption benefit amounts will also decrease. So it's important. I mean, it's.
And for the ratio to be parity, the assessed value for tax purposes would have to be equal to the total assessed value that the state has put out.
So yes and no.
Well, is it yes or no?
So it's yes and no.
Okay.
So the state, when the state determines our value, it's near impossible for a town to be at what the state is saying, because we're never going to hit the mark, because they're always looking at 2 years behind. What happened? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
So we'll always be a little bit behind, but the state allows a 10% deviation. So when they determine a ratio, if the state comes in and says your ratio is 81%, we are allowed to adjust that. The state gives us an allowance of a 10% deviation. So we can then take the 81%, add 10%, which is 8.1, and then we can certify it at 90%. So it gives us that, it gives us that wiggle room, because we're never going to be exactly with the state, because they're always looking at sales from 2 years ago. So
I think the other benefit besides the exemptions is that you're hoping when you're at 100% of value that you are equitable across the community. And so we are taxing people based on property value, whether people like that or not. That is what the state constitution says. And so the closer you are to 100%, hopefully, the more equitable you are on those values.
And
So-
go ahead, Joe.
So if you're 10 points off, 10% off, does that mean you have to have a 10% increase in your assessed home values, which would then result in a 10% tax increase to get to 100%?
Well, if your value goes up, the tax rate will come down.
Your mill rate goes down.
Yes.
Right.
So your tax could
So
stay.
it
Could stay
shouldn't-
the same and,
Right, it
okay,
shouldn't equate.
right, oh, right, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And the other thing about, I'm sorry. are you
No,
done?
no, no. thanks.
The other thing is, so like different from other states, when people sell their homes, it doesn't automatically go to the new sale of what's being
Correct.
taxed. So that's a
Correct.
different thing, that's different from the
Correct.
state of Maine than
State of Maine does not do
other
that.
states.
Correct.
So
correct.
that's also what
It's-
helps us.
Yeah, the
right?
terminology that the state of Maine uses is chasing sales. So if assessors would to do something like that, it's classified as chasing sales, and it's not appropriate, and it's not within the state.
But it's why we fall behind so quickly, is
It's why all
because
communities
the
fall behind,
state
because
is
we're always.
looking at the sales.
Correct,
and-
well, because what they're looking at is they're looking at 2 years ago.
Right.
And they're taking what I give them today, and then they're going, okay, well, you were at 80%, we're gonna add 20%, so this is where we think you should be. And we're always going to be that step behind, because.
But it could sometimes go the other way.
Correct,
It
yes.
went the
But
other
no-
way.
It did when we did the update, because they were behind and we
Yeah,
had
but
adjusted values,
But,
yes.
but the issue, Becky, is if we fall too far behind, all residents are impacted with a tax increase, because their homestead exemption is
dwindling away.
Correct.
So
Correct, and
the
the
homestead
longer
exemption
we're-
does provide some benefit
It
to
does.
everyone,
Yes,
especially
it
those on the
does.
lower
And-
income
And the
scale.
longer we wait, and as the ratio continues to
That
decrease,
could become
of
zero.
course, then when you do equalize everybody, then it's a bigger jump.
Yeah.
Making smaller adjustments as we go,
But
obviously.
our overall, to your points though, our overall base, our pot increases because the pot of cash increases, the pot of, how do I want to say this?
Value.
The pot
value.
of
Value.
value increases.
Right. And so we tax people less on that increased value to get the same number, because our budget doesn't go up. We don't get a nickel as the town.
But it also, it goes back to that point of what we just talked about, which is, we haven't done this since when?
22.
22.
22.
So-
We haven't done a full assessment since
have-
'09. And I
Oh,
think
correct.
this really is an
Correct.
important difference.
Correct, and those are one of my options, but yes, the last full measure and list was done in 2009. And that is when the listers go to every single property in town, knock on doors, measure, ask questions, and do inspections.
And that's pretty expensive.
And that can be
That's-
expensive, and once I get into the options, if we want to go into the three options that I have, unless there's more questions.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think we got that right now, Ryan.
Okay, so the first option is in-house adjustments. With an in-house adjustment, I can make those adjustments to a smaller sample of properties, correcting smaller inequities, which can be done on a rolling basis. The cons with doing that is the changes obviously are to a smaller number of properties, thus not really impacting the overall ratio significantly and still leaving the inequities in town. Next
Could-
slide.
Say some more, because this inequity piece to me is important. Could you explain again why it's inequitable?
What's in
Yeah, I was gonna say, what is,
Well, the whole race to the idea that if you are not properly assessing values,
okay,
that there are, particularly on the lower income side, are being quite negatively impacted, or should be really having less taxes paid than they're paying. It's an imbalance.
right, it's an imbalance when you have an area in town, so, for instance, condominiums. I can speak to condominiums because
Right.
that is that is a small sample right now, that though the ratio overall isn't bad because we're at 81%, the comparison of the assessments within the condos, so you have some condos that are being assessed higher and some that are lower. There's inequities with the similar properties. So what we're trying to do is look at everybody on the same level, and not have the inequities. So if you have a condo in this particular complex, the values should be very similar with the other ones within the complex. So when properties get built or when land sells, we want to make sure that they're all being treated the same. And the inequities can occur when we have a sale here and then a sale here, but not all in the same area. So we're trying to make sure that we're looking at everything as a bigger piece. I'm not sure if that answered your question, John,
Yeah.
or not.
It's getting to the quality of the assessment.
It's the
as
quality
opposed-
of
and
the
that's the
assessments,
piece that-
and that, of course, is where the inequities come in, and that's what causes the quality of the assessments to be bad and lowers the ratio, because overall, our values are lower than what the properties are selling for.
Right.
Okay. The next one is the statistical update. Now, a statistical update is a cost way to adjust a larger sample of properties, visiting properties that have sold during a select time period. And this is what we did in 2022. And it's typically, they look at the sales from the previous 12 months, which highlights the most current trending market data. Our statistical update in 2022 was successful because we were able to maintain a good level ratio for 3 years. But of course, again, as the desirability continues, those values will still, the prices and the ratio will still change. The cons, again, would be that not every property is visited. So if a property, for instance, is not in the sample set collected, and there's some inaccurate information, we don't have the correct bedroom count, or there's a garage that was built whatever, the information will continue to remain incorrect, which could lead to more potential inequities in the future. Next slide. So the last option is a full measure and list. And this is the most comprehensive. A full measure and list is the most comprehensive option. Every property would be visited, verifying that all property data is correct. Sales data is still analyzed, but it's usually a larger time frame, typically 18 months. The cons of a full measure and list is it is the most expensive option. And a start date would be based on the availability of a reevaluation company. And in speaking with other local assessors, currently, a lot of these companies are scheduling 1 to 2 years out. And because of the comprehensive nature of the project, it can take up to 2 years to complete. And in speaking with other assessors, the full measure and list option of knocking on people's doors, since COVID, I guess, it has become more of, people are more leery, obviously, of having someone knock on their door, wanting to visit their home. So again, even offering a full measure and list does not necessarily guarantee that every property will be visited and we will get all the information from every single property.
And Becky,
Yes.
For the statistical update, the second option.
Yep.
Door number 2.
Door number 2, yes.
What's the time frame? Like, how quickly could we get that rolled out?
Well, it would not be able to be completed for April 1st of '26 because there just wouldn't be enough time.
Yeah,
But
not
again,
April.
we would have to, right, it wouldn't be this April.
It would be next.
If we could find, it depends on what the board decides and how we go about this. We would obviously have to go out to find either a reval company that would come in and do a.
I'm just looking at the difference between a revaluation. You said it would be,
Yes.
you know, so I'm
A
thinking,
statistical
well,
update most likely would be able to be done in a quicker period of time, probably by 2027, if there's obviously availability.
Do you happen to know, you said 2009 is when we did the last
Yes.
complete reevaluation.
Yes.
Do you happen to know by any chance what was
The
time
cost?
before that?
Oh, the time before that, I believe it was 1998. I believe it was 98 when they did, the Vision did one in 1998.
So 11 years.
And then 2009. And we were scheduled to do one in 2019, but then ended up doing the statistical update. And statistical updates seem to be the more common options with assessors these days because they can do it more frequently. And they will budget money aside every year, you know, either putting $10,000 or $20,000 away so that they will be, so assessors are able to make those changes more on a rolling basis as not to have, you know, a big drop in the ratio and then have to have a big jump to bring everybody up. And then looking at, you know, Kennebunk just did one and their values were at 46% before they finished it. So of course, people's property values doubled and tripled. I mean, yes, the tax rate went down, but it becomes a bigger jump and it's more of a sticker shock for residents
for some people.
when you're going from a 46 ratio up to 100%.
Yeah.
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 You have a
And-
question? Okay. Yep, keep going.
So what we talked about before, the houses that get sold, say there's a house that didn't get sold, it got, the one that we were talking about a while back. you
Yeah.
know, The house, the property was something else that got built into maybe a McMansion, and then it's not taxed there. Would a statistical update catch that?
So a statistical update will catch all of the changes to a property. Now, I know that we see on the papers and everything about the $12 million sales and things like that. The state has guidelines as to what sales can be used in these sales studies. So there's limitations. So if it's not an arm's length transaction, so for instance, a $12 million sale was purchased by the abutter. So that would not be classified in a sales ratio study because it was not a market sale. It was to an abutter, and that is disqualified by the state, per state statute. So there's certain sales that don't get into, that are not part of the study. Obviously, we still look at these properties because we're still seeing that properties are selling for high amounts, and even though we have a $12 million sale, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're all valued at $12 million, but
Exactly.
obviously, it shows that there is increases that need to happen because of the prices people.
But it's just a statistical sample, right? This is the whole idea of a statistic, is that right?
Right, right. But with a statistical update too, talking to other assessors, there's variations and ways to make adjustments, using sales data, using our cost tables, and trying to get to where we need to be, as all assessors are finding in the state of Maine, because the popularity to live in Maine is becoming, it's still desirable. It's just something that the assessors are seeing happening. We're trying to maintain the levels as best we can because obviously it's important.
Yeah, so it's not a blind statistical
No.
sample?
No,
No,
because
it's-
we can have them look at
You
specifics.
Yeah, I
Well-
think the way you explained it to
Yes.
us before is like, it's certain areas
Yes,
that will
yes.
be looked at.
Right.
Yes.
It's certain types
Right.
of houses that will be categorized, so
Mhm.
it's
Yes.
not like a,
Right.
a random study
Right.
of 5 or
Because-
30. It's the way you explained to us, and I'm testing for understanding
Yes.
before, it's a methodical approach into buckets of different types of
Mhm.
housing areas, housing types,
Correct,
land, et cetera,
Yes.
and then that comes out with a statistical update.
correct.
But we're not visiting those homes. We're not getting into those homes. We're not even driving by those homes.
So, yes, they can do drive-bys, that's kind of where the variation comes in. Speaking with other assessors, there's other means to get some of the information without actually having to go into somebody's home.
Like aerial photographs
Air-
and other things.
Correct,
Somebody
doing
drive-
drive-bys, sending letters to property owners, asking them to fill out surveys. I mean, there are other options.
Can you look at like Zillow and all that when these houses were for sale and all the things that were like the beautiful new kitchen that?
Correct.
right, you
So
can look at
yes,
that.
I do.
Yeah.
I will, when sales come up, and, because I did sign up for that, so when a sale in Kennebunkport comes up, I get notified of the sale, and I will look at the listing. I will look to make sure that my information is correct, and at that time, I can make changes if I see that maybe the basement is finished, and I don't have it listed as a finished basement.
See,
So
that's kind of
those-
my question.
Yes.
Like, in your experience or in other assessors' experience, when you do a full evaluation, like the 2009 was done, get into each home, what percentage of things are found that are kind of surprises? I mean, is this something that's every once in a while, or is it maybe 20% of them? I mean, is there any feeling to how that has normally gone in the past?
Really, I don't.
Folks that don't pull permits and do stuff?
I'd say it's 20%.
20%,
Yeah,
that's what I would
It's really
think, yeah.
not, it's really not a lot,
Well,
you
it's
know.
20%, so.
I mean, yeah,
considerable.
well,
But all right. yeah.
So, I mean, one of the things we wanted to just talk to the board about is, I know there have been questions because the state valuation is $1 billion more than our assessed valuation.
It's a real number.
And one of the things that Becky and I have talked about is that, in the old days, house values went up like this, and then once in a while you have a market crash. And so we could tell you, this is probably what's going to happen. We've been waiting for a housing market crash for 10 years now. When we were doing the statistical update, we started in 19, and remember, COVID came, and so we paused it because we were like, oh, no, what's
Right.
going to happen? And then housing values went up even more. And so the rules from the past do not necessarily seem to be the rules for the future. So that's why we're saying we're not sure how much money you want to invest. The data is still good if we collect it. It's just the cost tables will be different.
Right.
It has been a long time since we've done that amount of work. Becky has spent a lot of time talking to other assessors across the state. So we can be doing things from A to Z, and usually people like to be in the LMNOP area. And so, but we're just trying to get a feeling from you, because especially if you want to do a full reval, it's gonna be 3 years out at least, by the time it's implemented. And so we just want to get ahead of that and get some understanding from you about where you want to go. And you don't have to answer us tonight, but as we put the budget together, we're looking for that feedback.
And do you have a sense of costs? Was that?
So the costs that I've received vary between $100 to $275 per parcel. And currently, we have 3,900 parcels in Kennebunkport, so anywhere between 390,000 to up over $1 million, depending.
And the cost of a statistical.
That's kind of within
That's
that
the
range,
range.
that $100 to $275
Oh, wow.
is kind of, yes.
Well, what's the
What did the
full
last
then?
one cost?
What does the full one cost? I thought that was the 500.
Well,
was.
right.
That was, so when she's saying statistical can be anywhere, she's talking about, do you want to do surveys? Do you want to do drive-bys? Because it's just, think about it in terms of the labor involved in any of these. So having somebody come in and assist Becky in looking at neighborhoods and where we're seeing sale changes and reviewing those cost tables, that would probably be the lowest cost. And the highest could be, I don't think it would be $1 million personally for Kennebunkport. But, you know, prices keep going up and we're talking a couple years out. So what price would somebody give us now? I'm not sure. But it could be in the 500,000 to 600,000 range.
I think the last full reval was around 300 and something.
It was 364 in 2009.
In '09?
In 2009.
Yeah, and
So I would say that, you know, it's almost like Eric's road paving mentality here, where we don't wait for it to completely break, and then we gotta throw a whole bunch of money at it, where we go and look at this disparity between where the state is and the town are in this bar graph, and it's sort of like we hit this trip point, we say, okay, we've got a big enough gap that we need to go and get closer. And so, you know, to Lori's point, we haven't trended in what we would perceive as a normal housing trend. We know that that's not a fact right now. So my opinion, I mean, we'll all think about it more, but just listening to you, my opinion is, I see the gap. The gap's not good for our residents. So we need to fix the gap, but I would come at it with the least cost approach in order to fix that gap and close it before it gets bigger. Then we can sort of sit back and see what happens with the housing market, and then we can keep watching that gap, and then, because we could take more swings at the bat if we keep, like Eric's paving methodology versus having it grow so big and then getting into this big reval. And then you're stuck for another 11 years, and something could have happened to the market again.
I'd get some confidence that the last one seemed to work pretty well. I mean, we overshot, but then it creeped up pretty
And in
fast in
speaking with
4
other
years.
assessors, because their first question is, what's your ratio right now? And when I tell them 81, they're like, wow, 81, that's great. I'm like, okay.
So Kennebunk waited till they were 45?
Yes, I don't know if it was just the timing of the reval company coming in and
We're not
just
gonna do that.
whatever. But yeah, a lot of the communities, Cape Elizabeth was another one that was very low before they went in and did something. So that's why I'm coming to you now, because though we're still within the safe thing, I think it does make sense to what you were speaking to, Mary Beth, is to try to cut these away, you know,
It's a real
to get it, because,
equity
right,
issue too, so
to make it more
gotta do it.
equitable, yeah.
Well, we're at
Thank you.
81, so if we kind of tweak it along a little bit.
Correct, and it won't be such a
And it
big
won't
jump
be-
for
it won't-
residents.
And it's
Right.
not, it won't be the Kennebunk shotgun,
Correct.
Right.
you know, and people will understand that this is a process that we're going through to stay to, and then the people will also see the benefit, to David's point, back on the
Home exemption.
The
the
exemptions,
exemption,
yes,
Correct.
correct,
Because we'll be able to get back to that 100% of the state.
absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
just think it is important for any municipality to stay as close to what the real market rate is on assessed values as it is, which can go down.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely,
it can, but I think,
yes.
you know, I know that it says the state only requires it every 10 years, which seems to become longer for a lot of communities. And it's not fair to residents or to anybody that they get these sticker shocks. So I
Correct.
would
I
go with
agree.
you keep, it doesn't have to be accurate, I mean, it doesn't have to be 100% accurate, but I mean, you know what I mean?
Don't.
You know what I meant.
Just get the dartboard.
It's
get the pen.
important.
Right, but it needs to be.
Right.
Thank you, Beck. Great stuff, thank you. All righty. And we're still,
So we're going back to our administrative project. So here we are with, this is potential future years with engineering funds. If we do get a design or some project ideas for the river flooding, we would need to put some money aside. Here's our tide gauge that's on government wharf on the
Right.
left.
Right.
As I talked about, we're looking to do some engineering as part of our wastewater budget over the next couple of years to get ahead of those pump station upgrades that are needed. And I'm gonna turn it over to Nicole for the end.
So we're looking at, this is our debt analysis chart, and this shows our current and future debts. It shows a decline over time, which is with an increase beginning in 2029 from proposed borrowing for the village fire station and the wastewater bonds. And then after this increase, the total debt service steadily decreases through the long term, indicating improving debt capacity as our bonds are retiring.
And these are just years that we have put in the CIP, and keep in mind that the wastewater does not all come, the bond from general fund, but we're showing you the full debt amount here.
And the orange is obviously showing you what would be on top of anything else that was bonded before that, so we don't see the total going down exactly as written.
So the last slide we have is just our comparison of budgetary capital. So remember, we talked about all the various funding sources for capital. So this is, over the past few years, what we have actually put in the operating budget. So the top line you'll see is what that operating budget capital amount was. And then we have been using some of our capital reserve fund balance to offset that cost. So that second line is what that contribution was each year. I just put in 500,000 for FY '27 just as a placeholder. And then what the actual impact on the budget is, so what would come from property taxation. So you can see we were around 1.2, 1.4. We've gone up to about 2 million last year. This year, right now, based on this CIP as presented, is 2.7. I do not anticipate that we would come to the budget process with a 2.7 capital impact on the budget, but that means we have to make some choices between this presentation and the actual budget.
Perfect.
Any
Thank you,
questions for any of the department directors here, or?
Yeah, go ahead, Alan?
Alan Evelyn, I'm on the budget board, and so my questions are relative to those aspects. I have two questions and an observation. Very simple. The legal fees that we discussed at length earlier in the capital budget presentation, relative to infrastructure, and specifically 1B, are those follow through the capital budget?
So I would say if you are doing a capital project that you know is going to have either legal fees attached because of bonding costs or because you need to purchase wetlands someplace or need to negotiate contracts, then yes, you would normally include those as part of that project.
Okay, so not part of annual expense.
Correct.
Okay.
But those are, I would say, more infrequent than frequent.
Okay, and then second question, very simply, in the equipment area, there are vehicles, a boat, public works equipment. Are these prices that are put in each line for over the 4-year period, is this net pricing, or is this including in your prices you have considered what you're getting for value when those cruisers are sold or that equipment is sold?
Those are usually gross prices, so what we will pay for the overall. We, when we get to the budget process, we'll put in if we think there's a sale value. A lot of times with our police cruisers, I'd say the sale value is minimal, and some of the trucks, but some of them are more. So we do equate for that in the budget revenue.
Okay. All right, and then my observation is that the CPI package I got was very impressive. this is my fourth year on the budget board, and I haven't seen that detail. The administration and the departments did a great job, as far as I'm concerned. So that gets us in a good position going into the cycle. that we're
Yeah, thank you, Al.
facing.
And our goal really is not to say, this is what we have to buy each year, but it's about, these are what we project as the needs. So let's look at this with our eyes wide open, blinders off, and just have some real discussions about priorities.
One little stickler. You have set a $1 million construction price on a new town meeting room. Have you had any discussions about where that might be located?
So I don't think that's a stickler at all. I mean, certainly it's something we couldn't add on to 6 Elm Street. I think other sites would cost more. I think the fire station site is probably the most likely.
Okay. Thank you.
So when we get back to, just to make sure I understood you, Lori, when we go into the budget process with the budget board, we would be looking at this package to sort of try to find roughly 700 to 800,000.
Well, I'm gonna propose something to you that I hope is below that.
Okay.
So I'm looking for feedback over the next month, because by the end of February, I have to present the full budget. So if you guys have feedback and, want to contemplate it and talk about it at your next meeting, or talk to me individually, I'm hoping that we can get closer to there by the time we have the budget presentation. But absolutely, budget process is a time to make those decisions.
Yep, thank you.
All right, moving on to item number 7. This is to consider the annual shellfish license allocation.
And Tracy
And
O'Rourke?
Tracy, yeah. Is there a slide, hopefully?
Good evening. Tracy O'Rourke, Town Clerk. And you have before you the shellfish allocations for this year that were recommended by the Shellfish Committee and the Shellfish Warden. Everything is the same. The only thing that changed is the addition of resident-only recreational daily licenses. And the suggestion is to offer 5 per weekend to residents who were not able to get a seasonal license, or maybe they didn't want to commit to a seasonal license because they knew they would only go once or twice. And the recommendation is to charge $5 a day. And that's just a recommendation. It's really your decision whether you want to offer these and what the cost will be.
So as I understand, when we talk about a weekend, it's Friday, Saturday, or Sunday,
Yes, those are
right?
the only days clamming is allowed.
And then these 5 would only be available for one of those days in a given weekend.
So 5 for the whole weekend, so.
But
some-
he's saying if I come in, I have to choose a day.
Yes, correct.
You choose
Yes.
a day.
You pick your day.
And it would seem it might be logical to ask or to specify that they have to make that application in the week preceding that weekend.
Yes, I see them coming in sometime that week before that weekend, so Monday through Friday, telling us what day they want. And there will be no refunds if it rains or if they can't go that day, then they're out of luck.
And so you can't project 3 weeks ahead, and that makes
Correct.
perfect sense, because then if they're canceled. Does that, how's that sound? Is that any questions or concerns?
No, I'm happy with it.
Do other towns do this?
The daily? Some towns do. I think Biddeford does. I know Scarborough used to. I don't know if they still do or not.
Wasn't this kind of a question?
We changed the ordinance.
We changed your, that was,
To allow
yeah.
this? Okay.
And so we weren't able to implement it
couldn't do it because
until
we were-
this,
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
to this
We
site.
couldn't limit it to only residents,
now
which
we
is what
can.
we wanted to do, or what the board wanted to do. So we had to change the
So we
ordinance.
don't need them.
I'm good with this, actually.
But this is residents.
Correct.
It's residents.
Yes, we changed the ordinance so it only is for residents.
So I'd like to make a motion, just so we can get all these facts in to help you on that,
Thank you.
that we authorize the shellfish license allocation as proposed for 2026, specifying that for the resident recreational daily, Those licenses, there'll be 5 on any given weekend, be 5 individuals. Those individuals need to choose one of the 3 days in the weekend. The request and purchase needs to be made in the work week before that weekend. And the price we have is $5 a day, and there will be no refunds. All sales are final, as it were.
Are you set?
Did I miss anything?
No, I think you covered
Okay,
it.
go.
I think we're good. Second.
Thank you.
All in favor? Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you so much.
I was starting to fall asleep there, John.
Oh, okay, good. I had to get all pieces in there. All righty, number 8. This is to consider the purchase of body cameras for the police department. Chris?
So for FY '26, we had budgeted a total of $23,500 to purchase 10 body worn cameras for the officers. We had delayed the purchase while we were going through the school budget issue earlier in the year because we were holding off on capital purchases. So when we revisited Motorola, they actually came back to us with a price of $36,807.40. So quite a bit higher than they had originally anticipated. When we had budgeted this, we asked them to include any anticipated increases, obviously because we were going to be buying these later in the year. We had further discussion with them because we explained this is not going to work for us because this is not what we had budgeted for. After some extensive conversation back and forth, they finally decided to honor the original price they gave us. So just to be clear on this, these Motorola body cameras currently work in conjunction with the in-car cameras that we have. And currently, they're the only body-worn cameras that are compatible with our current equipment and server. So I'm looking to sole source this purchase through Motorola for the price of $23,500.
I think it's a wise choice.
I think it's good.
And my understanding is you're being modest. You actually beat them up, so they got the price back down to what they originally gave us. So thank you, Chief. Well done. Yeah.
People with guns usually win.
People with guns win, that's true.
So I'd like to make a motion to authorize the purchase of 10 body cameras to Motorola for $23,500 with gratitude of getting the price in the budget.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor? Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Chris. Number 9, this is to consider the renovations, much-needed renovations of the Dock Square restrooms.
Yes,
I think you're gonna have to pull that up.
she's gone. I can, yeah, so we've finally gathered some numbers together, just received the last of those numbers today on just rehabbing the bathrooms there. There's been some concerns about, I believe it's predominantly capacity in those bathrooms. We currently have 3 stalls, 2 of which are handicap accessible, and 2 urinals to handle all the traffic that goes there. We're able to kind of look at the layout of the existing building. We feel we can demo the inside of the building, change out some of the door swings, things like that. Change out the heating ventilation systems as well that have been there, I think they're 15 years old or so.
Or the
And
lack of heating and ventilation.
yeah, well, it's cooling effectively, so we usually close those down. We winterize those bathrooms. That's why we close them down immediately after Prelude, open them back up in April. So our numbers have come in at approximately, I'm anticipating about 100,000. That'd be us managing the project, not necessarily us doing all the work, but we might be doing some, but predominantly not knowing that our crews may not be available any given time, and we know we're on a very tight time schedule, that if we were to do this, we'd need to be open in April. We understand that. It's a pretty tight timeline. So we prefer to manage it and manage all the subs ourselves so we can keep them moving in and out. So we estimate the price would be about 100,000 to rehab all those. And the outcome of that would mean we would have 1 family bathroom, which is also handicap accessible, and we would then have 7 stalls and 1 urinal. So that's the upside of this versus 3 and 2 urinals.
Plus, there's a lot of much-needed repairs and maintenance done
Yeah,
on the building,
the building's
including
dated.
insulation.
Yeah, we're also planning to really make some we're removing all sheet rock from within the building. We want to put plastic panels in such.
Yeah.
We want to be able to basically spray down. I don't want to describe necessarily in
Yep.
detail what
Yeah, we're
happens
good.
in these
We're
bathrooms,
good.
but
Yeah,
it could be messy, yeah.
Yeah,
Don't need to paint that one anymore.
yeah.
When do you think this would happen?
If we get a green light, I mean, we're gonna activate this.
To be ready for the spring?
Yeah.
That's what I have told him.
And he has agreed.
And would the heating of it allow it to be used possibly all year long, or no?
Yes, we'd be insulating, we'd be putting in foam insulation.
And you're gonna put in mini splits, right? So they'll both heat and cool.
Yeah, there'd be probably, yeah, we'd discuss whether to have multiple mini splits or have one
But it's heat
larger
pump,
one.
it's heat pump,
But
yeah.
The recommendation is to go to one split in the back of the building.
Yep.
Yeah, they definitely do need to be
Oh, they do.
upgraded. I've been in there a few times, and it's time to do it.
Yeah, I was in there a couple
Please.
of weeks
And I will
ago,
second
you know.
Authorize expenditure of $85,000.
Hundred.
We got an update.
Yeah,
Oh,
Oh,
you
yeah,
get an
let me
update?
Yeah.
update it for you.
Okay, yeah, we're good.
We're good.
I'll redo this. I'll make a motion to authorize the expenditure of $100,000 from the dark square parking lot fund for renovations at the restaurant.
And I will second that.
First and second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Thank you very much.
And Eric, you can go into architectural design too. That was really well done. Very, very creative, yeah.
$85,000 better, but.
Hey, so while we wait for our next person, can I ask a question?
Who is the next?
Do we have any capability for the buses that come in that park down at Trolley Museum? Can we charge for that? And that would help feed our parking lot, our fund to keep bathrooms and everything? Is there a way for us to get?
Yeah, I
money?
mean, there can be.
That's a larger
It-
conversation
it's
that
been-
will be had.
Yeah, it's
Can
been, it's
I
being
don't know if we can,
discussed.
but
It's
we
being
will be
discussed.
having large-
Mr. Busman, can we?
We will
have
be
that?
having conversations about all that.
Okay.
Yep.
Can't answer that right now.
It's good
I'm
question.
now the bus man.
All right, number 10.
CDL.
We are considering the recommended updates to the Conservation Shade Tree Program, tree removal maintenance, and planting policy. Also, a website update FAQ for the tagged tree program. I will just mention that Joe and I met with the Shade Tree Committee and helped work through this. I feel it's a good step forward, clarifying for the most part, was most of the effort, was to clarify a policy that required some updating. But, John?
John Ripton, I'm tree warden and convener of the Shade Tree Committee. And we thought we should look at this tree maintenance and removal policy, because the last time it was looked at really and revised was a decade ago. And we felt it was important to look at it now, especially since we have an aging tree canopy. A lot more trees are going to age out, so to speak. We have an increasing intensity of storms and frequency of them. We thought it would be, and we wanted to also make sure that we were being aware of budget constraints as well, because all these things cost something. Particularly, we wanted to make sure that tag trees were understood by the populace, that the residents understand what a tag tree is. So we put together a frequently asked questions about tag trees, which we would want to put in a link to replace the tag trees link that is now on the website. And this is a series of 8 questions which try to provide clarification as to what a tag tree is and what the responsibilities of the property owner and the town are. So that's part of what we did. Then we went through with the help of Joe and John. We went through this document and we updated some of the wording. We tried to give as I said, the clarification of the tag tree, but also give some flexibility to the tree warden in order to be able to determine what is an appropriate cost share arrangement. Because people are under the impression that a tag tree is going to be a cost share arrangement. If it's going to be maintained, if there's going to be some pruning done, or it's going to be removed, that that's automatically a cost share. And that's practically difficult to sustain in terms of the budget, especially as the trees get older. And we had a huge elm that was taken down on Elm Street this year. We had a huge oak that was taken down at Main Street in the corner of Wiles District and Wood. I think it's Wood Street there.
Would, yeah.
Yeah. And we expect that will happen more often. And so as a result, we want the tree warden to be able to say, okay, this is appropriate for a cost share. It may be an elm. And we'd be able to say, yeah, we can go with a cost share there. But if it's an oak, perhaps we wouldn't do a cost share. It would depend upon the circumstances. At any rate, it gives the tree warden the flexibility to do this. And it doesn't actually specify a 50-50 split. Not that it wouldn't be, but just simply it's giving greater flexibility to the town to deal with these tag trees that are set for pruning or removal. So if you have any questions.
Does the board have any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple.
Good.
So just, can I get some understanding of why we went from maintaining to conserving? I didn't understand
Sure.
the relevance of that change.
Because maintaining the trees connotes work on the trees on a continuous basis. And conserving is more what we want to do for the tree canopy. We'd like to conserve the tree canopy. It's I think, a first order consideration is preserving it. Of course, we are maintaining it, but maintaining it to conserve the trees.
Okay, so it's about the intent is conservation of the tree.
Exactly.
Okay, versus when somebody says maintaining, they feel that there's some kind of maintenance schedule.
Cut it,
which may or
exactly.
may
Right,
not
right,
have.
may or may not.
Exactly,
Exactly.
And we did have some people say that we should have been maintaining the tree by their house more often, and they had that expectation.
Because of the wording.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I have another question, which I didn't understand, John, where you were talking just where you ended. So the cost sharing part, so for example, a tag tree on somebody's private property, would it be a situation where you would go in and tell the property owner that they had to do this, and then and would it be a situation where the property owner would then have to take on, would it be a potential opportunity where a property owner would have to take on all the costs? Like the town would say, you have to do this, and the property owner would then have to take on all the costs because there was no money in the tree fund or whatever?
Well, in the case of an elm, for example, we recently had a case out on Wood Road, I think it is, which is out to the end of Langsford. It was a small elm that was infected with Dutch elm disease. And we were willing to go a 50-50 arrangement with that. The homeowners decided to pay for it on their own, but that's a case where we would go 50-50 arrangement. If there's an oak tree, let's say, growing in someone's backyard, that's their responsibility. We don't go in and tell people what to do when it's on their private property. Yeah. All that we can simply do is suggest that things, not suggest, but actually require things to be done if it's in the public interest. So in the case of that elm tree, it was in the public interest because the elm disease spreads.
Can spread. Yeah.
And so that way, the 50-50 is an inducement to act more quickly on it.
Okay, so I'm just getting to the point where I'm just wanting to make sure that we're not getting into a situation where there's a tag tree on a private property and the town would go in there and say, so what I'm hearing is that this would not be the case, which is the town would go in there and say, you have this oak, it's a tag tree, and it lost a limb and it has to be trimmed this way in order to save the tree, and you must do this, and it's on your cost. Is that, I'm hearing that won't happen. It'll be, you will go in there and we would recommend it to happen because, and then the homeowner would then decide whether or not they would do it. Is that true?
Yes, that's true.
Okay.
That's true.
But
yeah.
you would strongly.
We would if it was.
You would inform them of what would happen to the tree if they didn't do that, and educate them that this is a tag tree, and to save the tree, X, Y, and Z
should be done.
And they go as far as encourage them.
Encourage them.
You know,
Yeah.
let them know what the what the benefits are
Right,
and
and the
encourage
risk
them
of-
to do that.
The
Yeah.
risk of not doing it.
Yeah, the only time that we would actually make a, a hard recommendation and decision to do something is when, for example, branches over a
Public way.
public way.
Right.
And we wouldn't go on the private property to do that without permission,
Right.
but we would just cut it off where it was presenting a threat to the public.
But it's always your intent when reading through everything and the way you guys operate is that, we always try to work with the residents and present the best case for the tree.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Any other questions?
No, I think it
Looks good.
Mary
Can I
Beth asked the
entertain a motion,
questions.
please?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed amendments to the shade tree program documents.
Second.
I have a first and second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Number 11, this is to consider an abatement for sewer service charge of $708.74 for 18 Main Street. It's the map block lot 11-004-003, better known as the Louis T. Grave Memorial Public Library. This was an, I don't know if we need to adjust it. This was one where there used to be a small building. It turns out that when that building was removed by the new expansion of the new extension of Graves, that adjustment was not made on their sewer bill. So this came to light, and I'd hope we would be willing to return that money.
I will make a motion to approve the sewer abatement charge of $708.74 for 18 Main Street, Graves Library.
Second.
First and second, discussion, all in favor. Thank you. And now gratefully to accept donations towards the fuel fund, $1,000 donation from the William J.J. Gordon Family Foundation, and $1,000 from Margaret H. Waters.
Make a motion to accept the donations for the fuel fund with gratitude.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. And then also to accept the donations continuing to come for the Allison Kenneway Memorial Scholarship Fund.
So I will make a motion to accept donations to the Allison Kenneway Scholarship Fund with gratitude.
Second.
First and second, any discussion, all in favor? Thank you very much. Now we're on our other business. Anything from Joe?
Nothing here.
I do have one thing I want to share with the board and with anyone who's listening. As you know, the Neighborhood Housing Trust is creating 6 units of housing on Beechwood Avenue. Just to give you an update, they have, so that's 6 units. They have 12 fully qualified applicants. And two of the buildings are up. They are having their interior work done. The foundation for the third building has been excavated and is going in and should be done within the next week or two. And then that will start to be framed. We are going to invite the board to a tour of the buildings on the week of the 19th.
Good.
So I will get a poll from you guys as when you can do it. We'd like to do it either 10 a.m. or 4 p.m. on whatever day we can figure out. And then we'll eventually also have one for the, that will include the planning board and the growth planning committee if they want to come. And yeah, so we're hoping to have people in by the end of the spring.
Wow, oh, God.
Some, well, unfortunately, some will not. We have basically 12, and we only have 6 units.
Right.
So,
But
yeah.
that's-
So that's my update.
Alan? I have nothing. Laurie?
So I just have an update for the board. You'll remember that last fall, a deed that we became aware of regarding the reserved way across from Norwood Lane on the west end of Goose Rocks Beach. And a deed was found in the town's records, and the question was whether the town had access to the beach on the west end. So we have followed up with the town attorney, done extensive legal research into the heirs as well as the owners at the time. There was a deed, this happened after the town took that first portion of Norwood Lane through town meeting. And then in 1968, we received a deed from several of the Pipers and Rip Emerson, who married a Piper, for that piece of land. But the deed was never recorded, and we also looked into the town records. There was never any acceptance or discussion at a town meeting, which would be required for us to take ownership. And there was no discussion in any board minutes I could find. But there was a second deed in 1971 from the same people condensing their rights to Rip Emerson. And this was the same property. This deed was recorded and accepted and executed in full. And it is our legal opinion that the town does not have rights in that reserved way, but they do belong to the family of the Emersons.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All righty, and you're good and good. So, we now approve, please, the January 8th, 2026 treasurer's warrant.
So moved.
First and second, all in favor? David?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
First and second, all in favor. Thank you. Good night.